My family didn't invite me to Christmas because it's no place for failures. I quietly agreed, and stopped funding my brother's family. Now he's losing his mind. Christmas has always been complicated in my family. It's supposed to be a time for warmth, forgiveness, and togetherness, but in my house, it's always been about appearances, judgment, and hierarchy. I grew up as the middle child between my older brother, Eric, and my younger sister, Kate. Eric was always the successful one, captain of the football team, got a business degree, married early, and bought a house by 28. I, on the other hand, took longer to find my footing. I didn't go to college right away. I worked odd jobs, started a small IT repair business, and struggled through my 20s to make something of myself. My parents, especially my dad, loved to remind me how much of a disappointment I was compared to Eric. The irony is, things turned around for me when I hit 30. My IT business grew. I started getting contracts with local companies, and eventually, I was making more than Eric ever did. But I didn't rub it in. I still helped out whenever my family needed me. When Eric's wife, Rachel, lost her job during COVID, I paid their mortgage for 4 months so they wouldn't lose their house. When their kids needed laptops for school, I bought them. When Eric's car broke down, I lent him money for repairs, money he never paid back. I told myself family comes first. But the truth is, my family never treated me like family. Last Christmas, everything came to a head. I had been looking forward to it. It was the first Christmas in years I wasn't swamped with work. I'd even bought gifts for Eric's kids and planned to bring a bottle of expensive wine for my parents. But a week before the holiday, I called my mom to confirm what time to come over. She hesitated. Honey, she said, we're keeping it small this year. Just immediate family. I laughed. Mom, I am immediate family. There was silence. Then she said quietly, you know how your brother feels. He doesn't want any tension. It's just easier this way. I felt a lump form in my throat. What tension? And then Eric himself took the phone. Listen, man, he said, his tone cold and flat. This Christmas isn't a place for failures trying to prove something. You've always made things about you. We don't need that energy this year. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. Then I said, calmly, okay. I understand. And I hung up. I didn't yell, didn't curse, didn't beg to be invited. I just accepted it. That night, I looked around my quiet house, the one I bought entirely on my own, the one I never needed their help to afford, and realized something. I'd been paying for their comfort while they disrespected me. So, I made a decision. No more. I canceled the automatic transfer I'd been sending to Eric's kids' education fund. I stopped paying for his Netflix, his utilities, yes, I'd been covering that too, and I even pulled back the business contacts I'd passed along to him. I didn't announce it. I didn't explain. I just stopped. A few weeks later, I started getting calls. First from Rachel. Hey, she said nervously, the school says the tuition payment didn't go through. Did something happen? I told her, yeah. I'm no longer part of your Christmas plans, remember? So I figured I'd free up some money for my own plans. She went quiet, then mumbled, Eric didn't mean it that way. But I wasn't interested in excuses. Then Eric called. Are you out of your mind? He barked. You can't just stop helping out without saying anything. Actually, I can, I said. You made it pretty clear I'm not welcome in the family anymore. So why would my money be? He started shouting about how I was punishing his kids, and how I was letting pride destroy the family. I said one sentence before hanging up. Pride destroyed this family long before I stopped paying your bills. Since then, I've watched the fallout from a distance. My parents tried to guilt-trip me, of course. They're your nieces and nephews, my mom said. You can't just cut them off. I didn't, I replied. Their parents did, when they decided I wasn't good enough to share a Christmas dinner with them. Apparently, Eric's financial situation is spiraling. Rachel's working part-time, and his business has been losing clients. Some of them were companies I originally connected him with, and when I withdrew my professional reputation from his side projects, they quietly stopped hiring him. Now he's furious. He's sent me text after text, alternating between threats and guilt trips. You're tearing this family apart. You'll regret this when Mom dies. You've become so bitter, man. I was just being honest. But the truth is, I don't feel bitter. For the first time in years, I feel free. This Easter, I hosted my own dinner. Just a few friends, my partner, and good food. We laughed, told stories, and I realized something incredible: family isn't blood. It's respect. Eric still hasn't apologized. My parents keep trying to mediate, but I told them I'm done being treated like a walking wallet. 2 weeks ago, Eric showed up at my office unannounced. He looked rough, dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, desperate. You proved your point, he said. You're doing better than me. You happy now? I looked him straight in the eye and said, I was happy before you called me a failure. You just made it easier for me to see who you really are. He stormed out. Now, my family's split. My sister Kate has started reaching out more. She told me she always thought what they did was wrong but didn't want to get caught in the crossfire. We're slowly rebuilding a sibling bond one never thought we'd have. Meanwhile, Eric keeps spiraling. He's been calling our parents non-stop, asking them to pressure me to be reasonable. But here's the thing, I am being reasonable. I finally learned that love without respect isn't love at all. They didn't invite me because they thought I was beneath them. Now they're realizing that I was the one holding everything together. And I'm not going back. Edit. For those asking, no, I don't plan to resume helping him financially. I've redirected that money into scholarships for local kids studying IT, the kind of support I wish I'd had when I was starting out. Funny, isn't it? My brother said Christmas wasn't for failures. Now the failure is the only one actually making a difference. After I cut off my brother and his family, he tried to turn my parents against me. It backfired in the most satisfying way. When I thought I was finally free from my family's toxic grip, I underestimated one thing, my brother's ego. After Christmas and the financial cutoff, I thought silence would follow. Instead, it turned into months of manipulation, guilt trips, and passive-aggressive games orchestrated by Eric. He couldn't stand the idea that I'd moved on, that I wasn't begging to be part of the family anymore. So he did what he always does when he's losing control, he tried to make me the villain. It started in subtle ways. My mom would call, sounding hesitant. Honey, Eric says you're refusing to talk things out. Maybe you could just apologize and move forward. Apologize for what? I asked. Well, for cutting off the kid's school fund and embarrassing him at work. I actually laughed out loud. Embarrassing him? He called me a failure, Mom. He excluded me from Christmas. I didn't humiliate him, he did that to himself. But Eric's story was already taking shape. Apparently, he'd been telling everyone, family friends, our aunts, even our parents' church group, that I'd become arrogant after making some money, that I was punishing his kids because I couldn't handle his success. He flipped the entire narrative. And my parents, being who they are, believed him. They've always had a soft spot for Eric, the firstborn success story. Then, one afternoon in February, my dad called. He rarely does. Your mother's upset, he said coldly. Your brother's having a hard time. His kids might have to switch schools. Why are you doing this? Because he called me a failure and told me I wasn't family, I replied. Dad sighed, as if I were the unreasonable one. You're both grown men. He said some harsh words, but he's still your brother. Don't let pride ruin this family. I paused, choosing my words carefully. Pride didn't ruin the family, Dad. Enabling did. He hung up without saying goodbye. A week later, I got a text from my sister Kate. You might want to know, Eric's telling everyone you're financially unstable and that your business is failing. He's saying that's why you cut him off. I couldn't believe it. The man who owed me money was now spreading rumors that I was broke. I decided not to respond, not to Eric, not to my parents, not to anyone. Silence was my strategy. If he wanted attention, I'd deny him that power. But then something happened that made me reconsider staying silent. In March, my mom called again, her voice shaky. Your father and I are thinking of co-signing a small loan for Eric. Just until he gets back on his feet. I nearly dropped the phone. Mom, are you serious? You're both retired. You can't afford that. She whispered, we just don't want to see him lose his house. And that's when I realized what was really going on. Eric wasn't just manipulating emotions, he was using them for money now that I'd cut him off. I asked her, has Eric paid you back for anything before? She didn't answer. So I said quietly, he's using you the same way he used me. You'll end up broke if you keep saving him. She started crying. You don't understand, he's under a lot of pressure. No, Mom, I said. He's always under pressure, because he refuses to take responsibility. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a blocked number. It was Eric. Listen, he began, trying to sound calm, we need to talk. Things have gone too far. I agree, I said. Stop lying about me. He scoffed. You think you're so righteous, don't you? I just told people the truth, that you've changed. You're selfish now. You think money gives you the right to look down on us. I laughed. You called me a failure because you were jealous. You cut me out of the family, and now you want me to bail you out again. You've got some nerve. His tone changed, from arrogance to desperation. I could lose my house, man. My kids might have to move. You can't just sit there and watch that happen. I stayed silent for a few seconds, then said, you watched me struggle for years. You watched me work 80-hour weeks while you mocked me. You watched me build something from nothing, and when I finally made it, you called me a failure. So yeah, I can sit here and watch. Because this is the life you built with your own choices. He hung up. Then came the final blow. In late April, Eric convinced my parents to host a family meeting at their house. They told me it was to fix things once and for all. Against my better judgment, I went, mostly to see how far he'd go. When I arrived, everyone was already there, my parents, Eric, Rachel, their 2 kids, and Kate. The atmosphere was tense. Eric opened with, we're not here to fight. We're here to get back to being a family. I nodded slowly. Okay. Then say you're sorry. He blinked. For what? For calling me a failure. For excluding me. For using me. He smirked, that same smug expression I've seen since childhood. You're so dramatic. It was a joke. Everyone knew that. I turned to my parents. Do you think it's a joke that I wasn't invited to Christmas? Dad shifted uncomfortably. Mom avoided eye contact. Then Eric said, you're just holding grudges because you think you're better than us. You've got money now, and it's gone to your head. Kate suddenly slammed her hand on the table. Enough, Eric. Everyone froze. Kate never raises her voice. She looked at him dead in the eye and said, you've been lying to everyone for months. You told me you called him a failure. You told me you didn't invite him. Don't act like he's the bad guy. My parents looked stunned. Eric's face turned red. Kate, he hissed, you don't understand. No, she interrupted. I understand perfectly. You used him. You used Mom and Dad. You've been blaming everyone for your mess. It's time you own it. The room went silent. Then my dad spoke quietly, "Eric, is that true?" Eric didn't answer. He just stared at the table. That was the last time I saw him. After that meeting, my parents finally started to see through his act. They didn't co-sign his loan. They told him to figure things out himself. A month later, he lost his house. Rachel took the kids and moved in with her sister. Now he's living in a small apartment, still blaming everyone but himself. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. But I did feel closure. Because for once, the truth didn't need defending. It spoke for itself. A few weeks ago, Kate invited me to dinner at our parents' place. I hesitated but went. It was quiet, no tension, no fake smiles. Just peace. Mom apologized, tears in her eyes. "We should have listened to you sooner." I just said, "It's okay. I'm glad we're finally seeing things clearly." When I left that night, my dad put his hand on my shoulder and said, "You were never the failure, son. I'm sorry I ever made you feel that way." That hit harder than I expected. Now, I spend holidays with people who actually value me, friends, coworkers, Kate. My parents are slowly rebuilding trust with me, step by step. Eric still tries to call occasionally, but I don't answer. I'm done being his safety net. Because here's the truth, some families don't want to heal. They just want to reset the cycle, so they can use you again. And I've broken that cycle for good. Edit. Kate recently told me something that stuck with me. You didn't lose a brother. You just stopped parenting a grown man. And honestly, that sums it up perfectly. After the family meeting that ended with Eric finally exposed, I thought it was over. I thought that was the final chapter in this exhausting, years-long drama. But if I've learned anything about my brother, it's that when he loses control, he gets dangerous, not in a violent way, but in the kind of manipulative, self-destructive way that drags everyone around him down too. A month after Eric lost his house, my mom called me late one evening. Her voice was trembling. "Your brother came over," she said quietly. "He was crying, saying he has nowhere to go. He's been sleeping in his car." I sighed. "Mom, I told you, I'm not getting involved anymore." "I know," she whispered. "But he looked so broken. He said you ruined his life." That line again. The one he always uses. I didn't ruin his life, I just stopped financing it. But guilt is a language my family speaks fluently, and for a moment, I almost felt it again. Almost. Then Mom added something that froze me in place. "He said he lost his house because you refused to transfer the money he was counting on." "What money?" I asked. "The business loan you promised him." I laughed bitterly. "Mom, there was no loan. I never promised him anything." But it hit me, Eric was rewriting history again, this time to make me the scapegoat for his foreclosure. I didn't respond to his calls, but Kate kept me updated. Apparently, he'd been telling everyone that I pulled out of a business deal last minute and left him to drown. Even Rachel's sister, the one housing her and the kids, believed it. Then came the kicker. Kate called me one Saturday morning. "You're not going to believe this," she said. Eric didn't lose the house because of bills. He refinanced it, twice. What? He pulled out over $100,000 in equity, said it was for a new business. But get this, there's no business. He gambled it away. I felt sick. Apparently, he'd gotten into online sports betting over the last year. It started small, then he got hooked. He'd been lying to Rachel, telling her he was investing the money in crypto consulting. Meanwhile, he was hemorrhaging thousands every week. The house payments he missed weren't because he couldn't afford them, they were because the money never existed anymore. A few days later, my parents found out too. Eric came over to ask for more money, and Dad, finally fed up, demanded to see proof of his business. Eric exploded. "Why can't anyone believe in me?" he shouted. "You all think I'm some loser." My dad just stared at him and said quietly, "We believed in you too much. That's the problem." Mom told me she cried after he left. "I can't believe he lied about everything," she said. "But I could. Because that's who Eric's always been, someone who builds his whole life on lies until they collapse, then blames whoever happens to be standing closest when they do." Then came the part that shocked everyone. Rachel reached out to me. I hadn't spoken to her since before Christmas. She sounded exhausted. "I know you hate him," she said. "But you should know what he's been saying about you to your parents." "I can imagine," I replied dryly. She continued, "He told them you forced him into gambling. That you got him into crypto and made him invest in some fake startup that lost all his savings." I laughed in disbelief. "He's telling them I caused his debt?" "Yes," she said. "He's been showing them fake text messages, photoshopped ones, that look like you told him to go all in." I couldn't even speak for a moment. The sheer insanity of it was almost funny. Rachel sighed. "I'm done protecting him. I told your parents the truth. I showed them the bank statements. Every transaction. It's all gambling apps." When my parents called me the next day, I expected anger. But instead, there was silence, the heavy, shameful kind. Dad spoke first. "We owe you an apology. We should have known. We just didn't want to believe our son could lie to us like that." I said quietly, "You wanted a hero so badly, you ignored who he really was." There was nothing else to say. After that, Eric went off the grid. No calls, no texts, nothing. I didn't hear about him for months, until Kate told me he'd moved 2 towns over and was working as a bartender. Apparently, he's been telling his new co-workers that his brother stole his business idea and his inheritance. The story changes every time, but the ending is always the same: I'm the villain. And honestly, I don't care anymore. This past Christmas, exactly 1 year since the failure comment, I didn't spend the holiday alone. I hosted a dinner at my house. My parents came. Kate came with her boyfriend. Even Rachel stopped by with her kids, just to drop off a thank you card for helping her with a job lead. We sat around the table, laughing, eating, talking, and for the first time in my life, Christmas actually felt like Christmas. No judgment. No competition. Just peace. As everyone was leaving, my dad hugged me and said, "You were never the problem, son. We just didn't want to see who was." And that was the closure I didn't even know I needed. A few months later, I got one last message from Eric. A single text. "You happy now? You got everything you wanted?" I typed back, "No, Eric. I didn't get what I wanted. I just stopped giving you everything you wanted." Then I blocked him. Now, I run my business, spend time with people who actually value me, and live without guilt. I still think about him sometimes, but not with anger. More like relief. Because losing my brother wasn't the tragedy I thought it was. It was the release I never knew I needed.